the idea of presence is the difference between your success and your failure. And that's why in farming they say the first manure on the land is a farmer's shoe. I had my best boer got. It was like it was waiting for me to arrive for it to die. 1.2 million shillings I had bought it. I held my hands around my head. I cried. And these guys went and broke into my farm and they said, we are neighbors. Whatever happens, at least we'll take responsibility.
Hey guys, welcome to this beautiful episode of On the Board podcast. My name is Francis Emunkule, your host. It's interesting how I met this gentleman that I'm about to introduce to you guys. He prefers to call himself as a person that accidentally got into content creation. Ladies and gentlemen, allow me to introduce to you Mr. Kasim Kayira. Please introduce yourself.
Thank you very much, Francis. Yes, I'm Kasim Kayira. I own Dream Harvest Farm. That's really the real plug. And I'm trying my hands on farming without looking back. Since I got in there, I'm enjoying myself. But naturally, a journalist, a storyteller, and therefore, that's how I accidentally found myself going into content creation. That wasn't the purpose. I got into farming, but then you realize suddenly, how do I throw away the journalism? This is something I've worked on, something that I love. It just naturally comes to me. So do I just throw that totally away because I'm holding a hoe and therefore, digging into the land? I just thought probably sharing these experiences could be something. I mean, you go in there, a lot of the stories that you see about farming, for example, is people telling you the success stories. You don't see the disasters that happen in there. So I thought, why don't I just go in here, probably with a sort of a day-to-day sort of Kasim in the farming. And then while planning to actually relocate now, come down and get my hands dirty on the farm, one of my sons, number 2, decides and says, Dad, I'm coming along. So I just thought, how do we make content that would go down this route? We created Farming with My Father, which is our YouTube channel. That's so the content that goes in there, it has had that. But dream harvesting is that I've had this dream for a very long time, and I wanted to start harvesting the dream. My dream was either to become a lawyer or a journalist, and farming was just in my heart. It has always had a place there. So harvesting the dream, I've been a journalist now for 30 years. And that's a very long time.
That is seasoning today.
Yeah, that's really like so long, and you don't just get 30 years of work, of traveling the world, and then you just throw that away totally. So I suddenly realized that even within my farming, there were these aspects that kept coming that were beautiful, that I thought really would make interest, because you're interacting not only with the land, not only with the crops, but you're interacting with the customers. For example, now I've just finished, we've just reached the climax of our project number 1, which is the poultry project. We left the UK on the 29th of December, on 29th of November last year. And by the 4th of December, we received our first batch of local chicken. And that was the project that we were supposed to work on. We are already in the market now with our cocks. They are ready for sale. Fantastic big sizes, ready for the market. And nobody would believe that a local chicken would do that.
You relocated from the US?
From the UK, yeah.
To just come and
came down and just get onto my farm, yes, because I've got 2 farms. But when you're not around, one thing you learn, the biggest lesson I've learned is presence. So it's like presence. There is nothing. If anyone asked me that, what can I do? I want to farm, I want to do this. The first thing I would actually say is those 3 words: presence.
And it's common for people in the diaspora. There's almost that remote control type.
It's tele-farming, yes.
Yeah, tele-farming.
Yes, and that has its problems.
How hard did you learn such a lesson of tele-farming? Because I imagine, did you practice it before?
Well, I've had a farm since 2017. But being away. So I would
because
come
you say
in,
that slowly we are beginning.
Yes, to take back what was ours.
What did you mean by that?
Well, when you are away, because now I've got about 10 employees, who in total probably consume close to 2.5 million in salaries.
A month.
Every month in salaries. You are away, you are working away too hard in Europe, in the US, in Australia. Abroad, life is really hard. You have to earn your money. It's not the easy life that, for example, we live when we come back home. And it's home now because I've been there now more than 20 years. So definitely it is home. But you suddenly realize that you are sending money for people who are supposed to do work, and the work is not necessarily done how you want it. Meanwhile, you are under pressure because the month has come to an end. You have to pay the salaries. They will not have any room to sort of say, we didn't work enough. Please don't pay us our salary, or please cut our salary now that we didn't work. You have to still continue paying that amount of money. So taking back ownership was when I arrived, and actually when I was flying in, I didn't tell any of the workers that I was coming. So it was a shock surprise. Like one of the workers really got almost a heart attack because he was like the sort of the running manager.
The juggernaut.
And I called him to say, where is this? Where can I fuel up? And it was 30 minutes between that phone call and me arriving at the farm, in which case there is not much he could have changed. So I get to the farm and you see, every time, and people have a tendency, workers on your farms or in your businesses, or even workers like on a construction site. They know you've come from abroad, you have limited time. You are here for 2 weeks, maximum a month. They will buy time so that whatever they needed to do will wait until you have left, and then they can have the liberty now to do it at their own pace. So everything really sort of moves so slowly when you are away. So taking back what is ours was, I've got a house, beautiful house in Entebbe. I slept in Entebbe only one night, and since then I've only slept there twice in 4 months.
Wow.
I went to the farm and I said, I'm immersing myself into this. I've got to do this. So I took the passion, I took the courage, I took the patience, I took the perseverance, I took the readiness of whatever was going to come. And my life has been that I've lived through so much risk that now I can't say I'm risk averse, but I'm risk ready. So whenever I take myself into something, I'm sort of saying I have to deliver on this. So what would be more than a bullet which would have killed me in Ukraine, in Central African Republic, in Congo, where I've been doing, like covering stories. If I didn't die there, it's on my farm. So therefore, taking back was coming and saying, I need this done my way. So you come, you put your footprint. That's why in farming they say the first manure on the land is a farmer's shoe. You haven't even put them any manure, but the farmer's shoe, and that is presence. You are the person manuring the land because your presence there makes all the difference. You make things move. There are little things while you are doing, for example, you are constructing and you've run short of a bag of cement. The engineer cannot even sometimes think out of his head, maybe touch his own pocket or go to the person, the hardware where you buy from, and make sure that one sack doesn't stop a day's work from happening. And I just realized just one little phone call, even when I don't have the money, just a phone call to the person at the hardware and say, we are stuck, we're in the middle of this, we need 10 bags of cement, can you push us? And I've been surprised at how willing they've been because they know you are a captive audience. You are a captive customer. You are there to buy from them. So you find that just that one bag of cement that would have allowed the day's work to happen doesn't happen because you are not around. And all it took is your own word.
Yes.
So when I talk about ownership, it is that, the sort of things that have been transformed. You look at home, you look at wherever you step, and you just realize, are these things you would have waited for me to make a phone call that please mow this lawn? The smallest of things. So that ownership is like, my presence is there. Even the chickens know I'm home.
When you come.
Yeah, that's the difference. The goats see me, the sheep see me, the cows. And they have that feeling. It will take a day. They're just sort of saying, he's been away too long, probably hates us. But overnight, they've already picked up your scent and the camaraderie is straight in. It's beautiful. So that sense of taking back what is ours. Yes, that's where I was coming to that from.
You see, the passion and the intention with which you deliver this message shows how much you love what
it means to me. Yes.
Yeah,
yes.
How much it means to you. And it got me thinking, it's almost like everyone who's in the diaspora and they don't have that footprint in whatever they do. Yeah. They don't own what they have.
No, you don't. You can have cameras on, but there are places where the camera won't see. There are times there is a blind spot to the camera.
Actually, it's not only people in the diaspora, even people that are in town.
Yes,
And they have
you have the farm up country, so you have some distance to travel away. Yes. So presence is everything. That's why I said presence, presence, presence. And it is really the differentiating factor between having and not having. The kind of losses that we make as people in the diaspora are unbelievable. During COVID, I had an instance. The farmers, the workers at my bigger farm in Kiriandongo, I had brought in hybrid goats. I'd brought in boars from South Africa. I'd bought
that's
them
expensive.
off, and we had done crosses. So I had boar crosses. Mid-COVID lockdown, I'm stuck in the UK. I cannot fly. I can't travel. The workers know because they are listening to the radios. They know the lockdowns and all of that. They know Hajj is not about to be here. They went and picked out 49 goats, 49 boar crosses, loaded them onto a pickup truck, and went and sold them. Left. They knew nobody could touch them. They locked up the remaining goats and sheep in the goat pen. And for 2 days, the goats were not eating. Goats that are used to going out, drinking water at a particular time and whatever, having a particular routine. The goats were about to die inside.
Wow.
The neighbors, because they fear, it's my farm, there's security and all of that, they were fearful, but then they said, no, this is not normal. Haji's goats, we haven't had them. We haven't, the sheep, we haven't had them out there. And these guys went and broke into my farm and they said, we are neighbors. Whatever happens, at least we'll take responsibility. They went and got to the goat pen and the goats were almost like dropping dead. 2 days of no feed, no water, no nothing. The guys had packed up, loaded the pickup and went and sold the goats. 15 million I lost in that.
Wow.
Now, I want you to picture that as a person who is in the diaspora, because people watching your content now will be people all over the world. You are a person who has a farm. You have your farm in Chegegwa. You have your farm in Kiriandongo, in Apach, in Kayunga, and you're not around. The kind of heartache that you get in moments like those suddenly make it pertinent that you just have. You can't wait. The moment they lifted the lockdown like this, I paid through the nose to fly here. That was the time when the tickets, first of all, there were very limited flights. So it was only actually KLM that was coming to Uganda directly at that time for me. I took a very expensive flight. You have to take those COVID tests, the pre-travel tests.
They're hectic.
You arrive at Entebbe and you have to do another
Quarantine.
test. You have to be taken into a quarantine, or alternatively, pay your way out of the quarantine, Ugandan style. Thank you. Yes, and then, have to run quickly and get to the farm. I got to the farm and, I got there. I looked at had my best boar goat. It was like it was waiting for me to arrive for it to die. 1.2 million shillings I had bought it. I got to the farm. I held my hands around my head. I cried. I looked at, the loss, and I just thought, oh God, if I have a way, I'm coming back. This was really, really like a very serious eye-opener. I had about 52 goats that had been left in. And I looked at the goats. The he-goat waited for me. I arrived, opened, looked at it. It was so emaciated. I mean, if I show you the photo, even looking at it traumatizes me now. This is 2021 we are talking, but, already the trauma is still there 4 years later. So I sat down and I looked and I thought, no, I've got to come back. So I said, God, you gave me this. I don't think it was for nothing. One thing I've learned through my life's experiences, you get into stuff, pick yourself up, dust up, and walk on. You can only keep moving. So I looked at the goats that were remaining, so emaciated, got water. I bought some hay bales from a friend in Kiriandongo there around Mutunda area. And I sat with the goats. I was not leaving the farm. I sat with the goats and I started seeing them beginning to pick themselves up. The interesting thing about goat farming, as opposed to, say, cows, which I also farm, was goats do multiply very quickly. So of the 52 goats that were left, I think 30 were pregnant.
Oh.
So we started feeding them like non-stop, and they all gave birth in a period of 1 month. So get the 30, that's already 60 goats, and some of them had twins. And I was back in the game where I thought I had gone down and there was no coming back. The workers had disappeared, no trace, and I accepted that was there. So for anyone out there watching this, probably you hear all these stories where the only phone call you receive is just bad news. Entire good day, entire food day. The cow is dead, the cow is poorly. We are calling a vet and we can't find a vet. There's a time last year when I almost got a heart attack as well. I'm on the road driving. Well, literally with a heart attack, I mean, like feeling like this was the end of me. I have one cow that Gaju that I like so much. She's pregnant. And she goes into labor at 7:20 a.m. We are trying to call, and it was an ectopic pregnancy where now it's the legs that were coming out instead of the head. They call me, "Oh, Haji, we have a situation. This is what is happening." They are calling me in real time. They've taken some videos. They're sending them on WhatsApp. I'm on the road. I'm just up in the middle of work. So 7:20, we start looking for a vet. We called for a vet. The best vet that we got appeared around 1:30, not appearing on the farm, but taking the phone call, and saying, "I'm sorry, I'm so far away. I'm in Chijunjuba there, in Bunyoro there, in Masindi, and I can't come." So from 7:20 until 4:30 p.m.
Wow.
That's when they just made a decision. We were going to lose 2 cows. Let's just do whatever we can, pull out the baby whatever way, save the mother. At least we don't lose both. The calf had been too tired since morning, you can imagine, into the labor. By the time it was got out, it was 4:30, it was dead. Mother very tired. We didn't have any guarantees that it would live. It has survived and it's doing very well.
Wow.
Now, it's those sort of things that if you combine, these are stories that as a farmer, there are things that you suffer inside. You are not going to go to a public platform and start, telling this is what I went through. So a lot of the stories that you see are stories of success. People talking about how they've been successful, but then you don't hear that other side. So to me now, whatever I'm doing now, I'm absolutely passionate. I get to the soil, I touch it and I feel it, and I can almost talk to it. It's funny, but the kind of relationship that you start building. And it is amazing because you come in and you see things that look impossible. When we arrived in November, we go to the farm, it's all bushy, it's overgrown, all the entire compound, actually, the grass was almost up to my shoulders. And I'm thinking, I'm paying these guys to look after this place, and just looking even after the place is not happening. But I get there. I can show you videos from this morning, and you would marvel. Life. So that's where the word presence now comes in. That the idea of presence is the difference between your success and your failure. Yes.
The idea of presence is the difference between
yes, it's the fulcrum. It's really the balancing act between success and failure. So once you add presence, suddenly the equation in terms of failure and success is balanced. Now other factors start coming in. Yes.
Wow. So you see, that what you shared reminds me of a time. You see, I think I'd landed my first job that gave me a very, what you would say for a young man, a handsome salary.
Yes.
So I told myself, this money, a good percentage of it, I'm going to channel it into farming. So I decided I want to do beans and maize. So I went back into my village.
Farming or buying the produce?
No, farming.
Oh, right.
Farming. So I went into the village. I got about 7 acres.
Wow.
The first season, I got 7 acres. I did beans.
Yeah, right.
So when I did those beans, we first did the first phase of planting, and then weeding, and then we waited for the harvest. But I can tell you, I was doing tele-farming.
Yes.
The time of harvesting, they just called me and said, "Oh, the beans are ready to harvest." I was not there. So I was like, "Okay, you harvest. How much money do you need?" So I sent. I was shocked when they told me that the harvest out of 7 acres of beans was only 2 sacks.
Yeah.
I never got back into farming. To this day, even when I decided to go into the maize, I was actually doing it carefully. I was very scared. I did 2 acres, which I did not do so well. I got 2 sacks of maize, and I said, you know what?
Farming is not for me.
I didn't even say farming is not for me, but I learned my lessons, like you said.
Yes.
Presence is very important. Like when you go there, things seem different.
Yeah.
But I also realized that actually, even when you put your relatives there, I think it even becomes much worse.
It's worse because they won't deliver, and then even the relationship now dies.
Yeah, they won't
and
deliver.
Everybody in the family will be blaming you.
Yeah, and when you call them to account,
Yes. If they are much older than you, then
Yeah.
it's even very problematic. Yeah.
but thanks for sharing those interesting insights. I think for anyone that will watch this episode, they'll get to know that what they really need to do to own what they want to own. Because even coming back to Ugandan setting, I was having a conversation with my colleagues. Lately, a lot of people that are actually in the employment sector talk about quitting and doing agriculture.
Yes, yes.
But they tell sente ziri mu agriculture, sente ziri nyingi mu bulimi. But you find that you ask them what mode of delivery do you want to do. They'll be like, nja kola wano, sente ziva wano, nzitwala eri. But many times, the job will take off most of your time than
what you are intending to have on. Yes.
So I think this is something people will actually learn from. But what courage did it take you to leave the UK? Because you see, generally, setting your fair here, Africa, we imagine that sente ziri eyo. And for someone to take that strong step, it almost takes a lot of strength and courage for you to be determined to leave. You know, I've seen some of your work. It's incredible work, and you don't work with local media.
Thank you. Yeah.
And that pays a lot of money. I did a gig with Al Jazeera at one point. Small gig. I got $300. I was like,
this is what happens in that world.
And now for you, you're there playing with the big boys.
Yeah.
How do you choose to say, bro, I'm done, I'm going to my farm? How?
Well, I think it depends on what sort of passion you have in life, what sort of matters to you. There's a stage where you reach where, yes, we want money, but there is more to money than just the money. It's what you do with the money. It's not just the money per se, because if you look at money, it's just a paper. Whether you look at it and do whatever, money's worth is the ability of what it can do for you. The Banyankore have got a saying, "Echirema sento nage." Whatever money can't do, throw it away. Whatever money won't change, won't touch, throw it away. Simply because we imagine that money should be everything. But then when you get money, how about good health? Because there are many people. There used to be a very rich man in Rwanda. I always, he always comes to mind very quickly. He was called Rubangura. He was one of the richest men in Rwanda, in the Rwanda of the past. And he had worked so hard. He had denied, when you are working to become rich, you deny yourself a lot of the good things in life. So you get to a point where at the point at which you've got the money, the doctors are already coming in. You can't have sugar, you can't have salt, you can't have this, you can't have cooking or fried stuff. So the moment you take away those things, and yet you are working too hard to have a good life ideally would have been that. To have some sugar in your tea, to have some salt in your food. Food is tasteless without the salt, and the doctors are beginning to tell you, leave this. My late dad told me a story that was very, very funny. In June 1962, Uganda became independent on the 9th of October, 1962. But in June of that year, that is 4 months away from independence, there was a doctor at Mulago, a white doctor. My dad goes for checkup and they tell him, "Sir, you have to leave Matoke or within the next 3 months, you might be dead." So the doctor was very, persistent. This is your situation. We've checked your blood, blah, blah, blah. You need to stop eating Matoke or else, in the next sort of 3 months, we worry about, what your situation might be. My dad goes back and sits down and he's thinking so hard.
My matoke.
I work so hard. And because my dad would have matoke and meat from January to December non-stop. Anytime you eat like rice at home, you just know that is when poverty has come in. Or kaunga, the very worst. Now, that was even worse. They guys eat kaunga today or eat rice. Otherwise, it was matoke, and matoke of Kampala, you know how expensive that would be. So he tells me, he goes back and sits down and comprehends. He says, the doctor has said, if I don't stop eating matoke within 3 months, I will die. But if I stop eating matoke, I will live for a certain time that I don't know and then die. He chose matoke. This is June 1962.
Yes.
Dad died here in COVID, 2022.
Oh.
2022, the old man dies. 1962, nearly 40 years apart.
Yeah.
Actually, 50 years.
Now, what if you had left my
Exactly. So you asked me the question: how do you get the courage to do this? So a lot of time, so I sat in the BBC. The climax of any journalist is to work for those international media, and the BBC, I think, to be honest, without any shade of doubt, would be the top cream. Everything else, Al Jazeera, CNN, very good, thankfully. But they won't match the BBC. It has been there longer. It's built a sort of a name. Of course, once we got to Gaza, Israel, and then the Ukraine war, that sort of got tainted. But you cannot take away the core values which I think were there. So everyone's dream would be to be there, to be at that point. But I sat there and I looked at people. I worked with some of the best reporters, people like Jeremy Bowen, people like John Simpson, people like some of the top reporters. So I worked around them as a producer, then later on as a presenter in my own right. And the one thing I noticed is there's a very comfortable life of the 9 to 5. You enter into an office, you go into the field, day ends, you come back. Before you know it, you've spent 40 years in a place. And I would see some of these guys get paid money. You get to time of leaving the BBC, you say you've reached retirement age, they give you a package, a very decent package, about £100,000. That's a lot of money. That's a lot of, it's like 4 billion.
Did you get that?
Huh? No, I'm saying for people living at the age of retirement.
Okay.
Yes, upon retirement, I hadn't reached retirement age. So, and then you start seeing how this person starts fumbling with life outside. There is something that is very blinding about office jobs. There's a protective cushion that actually blinds you from the realities of what is out there. I'm streetwise now. I'll go into the street. Take me to Tony. I'll go and sit. Auntie Mega nyongera kasupu nyumarewe toke lyange. Hey, Auntie Mega nyongera akatoke marewo supu wange. Before you know it, you're full. I can go to Serena. I can afford it, but I will be able to afford Mama Tony, and the food sometimes there. You'll be surprised. It's a lot better. There's the heart. Someone has put their heart in there. I won't say that again. They'll come for me.
The smoke. The smoke of the tonyin, it gives a lot of authenticity.
No, the tea. They've got those big kettles. Boil until you can see the piping heat coming out of the kettle's mouth. You see the piping fire, but it is ginger, it is cardamom, it is cinnamon. You just pick up all those scents and you feel like your life is coming back. So the thing is then, I could see these people coming up. They've got the money. The best thing that this person would do is probably go and complete paying their mortgage. Because you are living your life to that. And then the rest of the money, they start taking holidays. They try to do investments, by which time it is really late to invest when you are receiving your retirement package. So I thought to myself, I'm not made out of that clay. My clay is different. There's a passion that I have. I've come here, I've reached this best place, I've picked up the skills. Actually, the wealth of a journalist is not necessarily the financial aspects. It is your contact book. Who do you have in your phone? Can I call Minister so-and-so right now, and if he sees it is Kasim Kayira, he will pick up the call straight away. These are the things that matter. That's where the wealth of a journalist is. Contacts. But which contacts? Essential contacts. It's not just contacts. Even if it is Mubumbi wa broker, that's an essential contact when you need them. So you build up, I'm sitting and I'm saying, I've built up this contact book that is very, very crucial. How do I put that now to use to benefit me now? I've become a journalist. My intention was to become either a lawyer or a journalist. God has given me journalism and taken me to the highest echelon of that. Now it's time to pursue the second passion, which is farming. I love the cows. Just the idea of sitting and looking at them, going in the morning and then coming back as the sun sets, you're on your cup of tea, roast maize. The picture, you get the feel. You get the feel. They are just replacing one maize corn, one maize cob with another. They're just bringing this one. No, this one is not ready enough. Take it back, and they bring, and you just break, and you're beating off the ashes.
I still left that guy.
No, it has a sort of a psychological feeling.
Yeah.
And so
It's
for
like
me, I was reading,
therapy.
and there is a verse in the Quran, and that for me has sort of taken me. God gave us animals. It's actually a chapter called Animals. And God is saying He brought you animals. Don't you see the beauty, the happiness that fills your hearts as you see them going to feed and as you see them coming from grazing as the sun sets? This is the picture that has sat in my mind for many years, and I thought I need to go and do this. But to be able to do that, you know what it takes. And that's where presence again comes in. You have to be there. You have to build that rapport with the animals. You have to build the rapport with the soil. You have to build the rapport with all the contractors, the people around you that are going to make things happen. You start relating with people. So when you have these people, people science, the ability to talk to people, to convince them, to get people to work for you when you don't have any single money.
Social capital.
In the hope that when the money comes, they will have it. How do you get people to trust you with their labor, with their energy, with their sweat, when you're not paying a single coin, but they are coming in because they have a belief in you that when the money comes, you will pay?
How do you build that trust? Because you see, our society today is even for the smallest things.
Yes.
Let me give you an example. Our gate man here, at the time he was gone. So when he was gone, my neighbors closed the gate.
Yeah.
So I arrived around 11 in the night, but one of our neighbors was actually mopping. And I jumped up the gate. I was like, "What's good in the wall? This is Francis. Open."
Yeah.
Open the gate. With even hearing my voice.
Yes.
He stood at the veranda, looked,
And continued mopping. Yeah.
11 in the night. I have a laptop on. I have a phone. And when you say that, it showed me that people don't even have lost in a society even the simplest, the smallest ounce of trust.
Yes.
And then my question is, how do you earn that trust? How do you, especially being in the business circles, professional world, the farming world, whichever circle, how have you been able to cultivate this?
I've seen the way people treat their workers. And again, if there is one thing that I'm grateful for the many years I've spent abroad, is the value of a worker. Not any worker, but this that you'll call the Montuansi, Comba boxers, some would say. These are essential workers, key workers. This is the person who is touching your food, giving the last touch on your food. If they were to poison you, you would be dead.
Yeah.
Because they have access to that.
The next minute.
So this is a person that, for me, if you saw, I came in the car, I'm with one of my workers, but I can tell you, I've come with my son and I've come with my worker, and you might not be able to tell them apart.
So wait, who's your son? Is it not the other guy?
That's the one you sat next to.
That was your son?
Yeah. But I've lived with my worker now, it's almost coming to 9 years. He's never moved out.
Wow. So he's now family?
I've bought him land next to our land. I've given him land as an appreciation.
Can I
so
become your worker?
No, I'm just giving, because when someone gives you a commitment, they show you this is a person you are living, in charge of your house, in charge of your property, and someone looks after it well. We are struggling to find workers that you can actually keep down. If you find a person that comes and gives you comfort, this is a creative person who will say, "Haje nyanya ziweddewo, ne nawe nali nsimbye mu kagadden wali." Goes to the back door and brings a tomato when you didn't expect it to happen. This is creativity. You need to reward this creativity. So one, it's about building a rapport with this person. You remain the boss. It does not take away the fact that if I make a statement, it is coming from the boss. It doesn't mean you have brought yourself so low that now you are no longer respected. You'll keep your respect, but respect is earned.
Definitely.
And by earning that respect, it is the kind of environment that you create. Two, I think having a clear job description A lot of the problems we have had on farms, especially people who are operating farms, is you operate a farm because you work farm.
Trust, yes. They're talking about...
How you're building up the trust. You're having a job description, clear job description. A lot of people bring workers, not for you because you work farm. You get a farm worker, but who has come general work. When you have general work, it's just like a president appointing a minister without portfolio. It becomes just, it's like I'd run out of positions, I'll just create a position that probably will give you this feel. Minister work on Akari. You see the Uganda translation of that. A minister work on Akari. You don't have a clear mandate.
Minister work on Akari.
Yes.
What's their salary scale?
No, they are ministers, and therefore, and probably they might end up working harder because they can be sent everywhere.
Okay.
Even without outside their docket. Yeah, but the thing is now you have to have clarity, and this is one thing that I've been learning and building upon. Having a clear job description. If I know, because now for my workers, I will be demanding 5 days of full work. You are on the farm, I'll provide you food, I'll provide you accommodation, I'll provide you basic medical care. So if your medical bill goes beyond a particular range, then it is out of my control. But I know I can provide you the basic treatment that will keep you alive, that will make you healthy, and therefore be able to deliver for me what I'm looking for. So as you're describing, as you're doing a job description, you are allowing the person to sort of know, what am I supposed to do when? So for my workers, for me, I want 5 days. So the contract we are entering is, you're on the farm 7 days, but I want 5 days. Guarantee me 5 days of full time. So if it is 6 to 6, yes, we'll have that 6 to 6, 5 days. The 6th day is a day where we have general duties. So you might be called upon to be saying, we have this place, it needs cleaning up, it is outside the remit of your work, but we are teamwork. Yes. We are on the farm, so can we all join hands? So it will be, can we join hands and, for example, clean this place? And then we'll do that. The 7th day is the person's day. So that's their break day. A lot of times we get these maids, for example, or houseboys at home. You make them work so hard. They are so tired, they can no longer allow even themselves to think. So that actually affects performance. Many people think, there are people I've visited some homes where you see a boss, because sees trouble. You cannot sit here. You're failing to understand that if you've given me a job description, wake up, clean the house, cook food, prepare the home, whatever, and I've finished these things. That is me who has put in a lot of the time to make sure that has been done. What else do you want out of me? So the person can take a break as long as the kind of work that we have agreed upon
the job description is done.
Has been done. Whatever else now becomes a meritorious thing, the person is just doing you a favor by adding that. Workers at home, they wake up first in the house. They sleep last. And in between there, when the person finds a little bit of time, you still want to push them to work too hard. I think it's not fair. So once you have a clear job description, we agree upon that. You keep your side of the bargain. I'll keep my side of the bargain. We are good. Then, providing, because there are times when you'll even pay people 2 months in advance. I'm here, I'm meant to be traveling back to the UK, for example. I realize by the time I go back, probably we're in this month, and then by the time of next month, it will be Kavuyo. I just say, I'm paying you the 2 months, this month and next month, because next month I'll have gone and I'm settling back into work. So I pay you a month in advance. That is trust.
That's motivation.
Because you haven't even worked, but I'm paying you that money. Now, for somebody else, they might take you for granted, and so if someone doesn't take you for granted and they understand the vision of where you're going, then that becomes part of the family. 3, it is very important to sit with workers and have a conversation about where you want to be, where you want to go. This is the vision. We are starting our chicken project. Chickens are going to require security. Chickens are going to require A, B, C, D. This is what I want from you. What do you want from me to be able to deliver for me what I've asked for? So having that conversation, because yes, this is what I want. Yes, I'm the boss, but having that conversation means everybody feels that their input has gone in. And that really becomes a defining game when it comes to delivering. Everybody's competing. Now, recently we introduced the Best Worker Award every month. So we have since December, we have a Best Worker Award. Person will get their monthly salary, and on top of that, they'll get 20 or 30K as a bonus for being the top worker. Who doesn't want to be that, including the manager themselves? So you start seeing that happening. Out of the blue, you can just say, now, today we are slaughtering a goat and we are eating it, and it's just for us. What's the occasion? I'm just happy. I feel like it. So these sort of things you see, you bring the dynamics. I'm not saying I'm the best employer, but I'm saying what has worked in my place. This has worked. I keep workers for very long. I've had a driver now, it's almost 20 years. Wow. Even when I fly away, he's around. He's the person I'll send for errands and so on. Nearly 20 years. That's a long time. That can't be accidental. It can't be just by accident. There has to be something that you are doing right. This one I've told you, we're coming to 9 years now. There's a reason why the person is not going. Because yet in between that, you've had others that have come and go. What is this person seeing that others are not seeing? So it's that. So having a vision and sharing that vision with the workers, this is where we intend to be. This is the target. And setting clear targets as well. I get the farm manager, I say, I've handed you 45 goats. Goats give birth twice every 13 months. So a year and 1 month. My expectation is we have the right breed, we have the right goat, we should be rolling with this. So I packed up my bags and I said, 1, I'm camping, so presence is there. 2, clear definition of where we are going. 3, trying to find alternatives, not shortcuts, but alternatives. Because in farming, once you try shortcuts, the cost of shortcuts is very big. You can avoid vaccinating at the right time. If a disease comes and it finds unvaccinated animals, all of them are gone. Would it be worth the shortcut that you thought you're taking? No. So I've kept up to that. You look at my chickens, I promise you, they are worth the money that someone pays. Because I'm there, I'm checking what they're feeding on, I'm checking their health, I'm checking. You are there, every other day. You're going to bed late, you're waking up early, and you're making sure that is moving. Now, I said I want to sort out that. Now, the cows, moving into a second generation now. We've been doing it. We are saying that has to change. We have to change the method. If you do what you've always been doing, you'll always get what you've always got. If I want to get something else, I have to be working differently. So I've gone into cows with a different perspective now. I've had cows for nearly 7 years. But I'm coming back, relaunching in with a different approach that is really saying, this is how I'm looking at things, and therefore the difference should also be there. I look at the goats, I look at the sheep. In fact, the sheep are doing much better than the goats on the farm, and therefore it looks like I might have to pump more energy now into sheep than the goats, because they're doing a lot faster. But although I can't leave the goats, that's kind of the cash cow within the business. So finding this and always finding all these new ways, learning, doing farm visits. There are a lot of times my content creation has been arising out of the farm visits. Because I was thinking, now I'm visiting someone's farm, I'll take some videos, and so just for my own sake. But then what do I do with all these videos? How about I've shared them? There's one thing I've realized. There are, I think, 2 things, but I'll mention only one. 2 things that never get less by being shared. Knowledge. I have never seen someone they've said, oh yeah, they've run out of brains because they shared their knowledge. Teachers would be empty at this moment.
Yeah.
So now that we have social media that has come in to break these barriers, to open up, to give access, sharing knowledge. I've found there are times you share knowledge and someone is saying, hey, there's a thing in Uganda. It's just like you're even telling the secrets of how you're doing it. Someone is understanding, it's like you're giving this away. And I'm saying, yeah, but they are not me. Yeah, you'll have the knowledge. You can either do it better than I am doing it, or you'll still be there and I'll still do it my way.
Yes.
This is one thing that never gets finished by being shared. The more you share, actually, the better it becomes.
Yeah, my HR told me that the easiest way to become a manager is by sharing knowledge. So, and that happens by you train others to become that which you are.
Absolutely.
And that's when you become better at what you do.
So I put a lot of time into research. I did a lot of reading, nearly 6 months devoted before I said I'm coming, allowing myself between my work and so on to be able to do that, do research, do visits. Every farmer will be doing something differently, and something works for them. So if something works for someone, it might not work for you, but at least you have a comparative aspect. You'll have something to compare with. You come and do yours and you say, this has worked for me, this didn't work. I got now, because I'm doing local chicken, for instance, I was saying, can I do mururuza? Can I get the pawpaw leaves and, squeeze them and start doing them? And you start checking your own performance in terms of that. And suddenly, some things will work for you, some things won't work, but at least you have them as alternatives. So, information sharing, farm visits, visiting as many farms as possible. There are people who have done it for years and they are getting better at it. Experience is the best teacher, as they say. You read it in the book, but someone else has lived it. Someone who has had this lived experience cannot. So content creation now came as a by the way, alongside the, my love for storytelling, but the fact that I've come to someone's place and I'm seeing all these things, I cannot just, one, I'm valuing what they are doing, but also two, I'm sharing for someone else to sort of see. Amazing. Sometimes there are people who have had corrections coming to them, somebody coming and saying, you've done this the wrong way, can you correct this? Even myself, correcting myself. I got, for example, doing this chicken farming, when I went to the people that I bought my stock from, they had given me the feeding troughs, the wooden feeding troughs. While showing my videos, someone checks on my videos on TikTok and says, but Kasim, there's food wastage, there's feed wastage there. If you use this kind of feed troughs, they are much more efficient. I went and bought 4 feed troughs, left in my older ones, but introduced these 4. Suddenly I saw a drop in the wastage of feed. And so you're picking lessons. Someone else comes and says, Kasim, you're putting water there. Yes, the drinkers are there. But at least you could do better with the nipples. There are those chicken nipples. Because they just drink on demand. And because they are drinking on demand, what is happening is that there's less water wastage, as opposed to when they come and just sit by the drink and therefore affect it. So all these things you are learning, and by sharing, because you have shared, instead of looking at it as a criticism, you are looking at it as a lesson.
A learning curve,
and you pick it, yes.
Amazing. So, you see, what I take out from how far we've come with this conversation is, 1, presence. Anyone that wants to do farming, your first manure is your first footprint on the farm. Soil, yes. Secondly, treating your employees properly is very important, but also making their job description clear. What you want from them, what they want from you. Trust is also very key.
Absolutely.
How you treat someone oftentimes determines
how
they will treat you as well.
Yes.
So for Gwari Yongwagala call a farm, if you're out there and you want to, do a farm, you're out there in the diaspora, or whichever part of the country, but this one I particularly want it for people in the diaspora, because this is a living testimony for people because many people that come from the diaspora, not many of them are able to actually come back and start. I have friends who come here for a week and they'll be like, in Uganda.
Yes.
So they're always in the run. They see everything is expensive. They're trying to steal from them. But it's incredible for someone to hear your story out there who's in the diaspora, and perhaps they're actually planning to come here. So, Mr. Kasim, as we close this particular episode, is there anything new or that we've left out that you want to share?
You've mentioned in our conversation something to do with trust. I think it is, we are very trust deficient in Uganda. People are very untrusting. But once you get out of Uganda and you go abroad, especially in Europe, especially in UK, I can speak for the UK because I've lived there, trust becomes a whole new phenomenon. You work for someone, we work for companies. If your pay is on today's Sunday, you're expecting your pay tomorrow Monday. Even if you went to the ATM machine tonight at 11:59, no, 11:59, you just stand on the ATM machine, wait for 11:59. When it hits midnight, put your card in and your money will be there. This makes a huge difference. So you come back here and the issue of trust. Now, I've told you I'm doing goats, I do cows, I do sheep. I've been doing beef cows, so I'm only going now into dairy cows. So with the beef cows, every year I only sell my animals once a year, unless there is something special. Maybe I have a friend who is coming, they have got a birthday or a kika to do for a child, and then they say, Kasim, can you? And then under the circumstances, if it fits in, then I'll do it. But I only sell once every year, and that is during Eid, the Muslim festival of Eid, Eid al-Akbar, the Eid al-Adha, the Eid al-Adha, as many would call it. And why? Because 98% of my clients are people in the diaspora. So you mentioned diaspora, and that's why I brought that in. Yes, are people in the diaspora.
So they buy from there, and
They
then
buy for their families because they have families back home, so they buy. So last year, for example, we sold 78 cows. 78 cows. I could only master 40 from my farm area, so I had to get 38 that I had to get from other farms. Well, where I am, I'm near big farmers, big farms. So there's not a shortage. But for the first time, they realized that now I'm a very big potential source because I had already finished mine and I needed to fulfill the orders that I was getting from my people. But the reason I was saying is this is it's about 110 goats and then about 40 sheep that went into that. Now, I sell once every year. And the idea of selling once every year, these people in the diaspora, they pay in advance. Because when I came to Uganda, people were saying, and people here, I don't know how they, because of the trust issues. Because for me, I know it's my name on the line.
Yes.
If anything happens there, it's my credibility. It's me. It's my name, which I've spent so many years trying to build. So I worry so much in protecting my name. So in that, there's the trust. So people will send you money. You get the money in advance because we receive the money about a week in advance before we can deliver. Because of all those big numbers that you hear, we end up you have to create an itinerary. So I say, for example, if I'm coming from Kiriandongo, so Bombo becomes now my entry point. Matuga, if I'm going to Wachiso, so I'll get to Matuga, I'll drop the animals that come to Kasangati, Chira, blah, blah, come back to Kasangati, cross and go to Matuga, then Matuga go to Wachiso. So I cover that area, end up in Buroba, end up in Bulenga.
Delivery.
Cross. Yeah, we deliver to people's homes. That's the difference. I deliver the animals from the farm to someone's home.
Wow.
There are people who will be living in, say, in very urban areas, Kawempe, Waise, where theft of animals might be, the risk, because we deliver 2 to 3 days before it. Someone might say, we don't have anywhere to keep the animals, so I bring it from the big farm in Kiriandongo to Bombo, to Karule, at the small farm. So we have a staging area where we'll have the animals, and therefore someone might say, bring it on Eid day. So we have to wake up, pray. After we pray, I have someone on standby, slaughter the animals. Sometimes I'll have to do it, the slaughtering myself.
Oh, you know how to slaughter?
Oh, come on. It's a son of a Haji. I grew up in a restaurant, man. 40 years in a restaurant. So talk about food. You should even have an episode about food with you, Francis.
Okay.
But that's a talk for another day. So the thing is, then, we deliver the animals. So I'll have delivered 2 days before Eid for all the other customers. And then on Eid day, now we'll slaughter the animal because they want it before midday so that they can cook for their people and have the food ready. Now think about the logistics. Normally we don't get many requests like that. So we have about 3, 4, 5 on average. I think the most we've had was about 7 people who said we want the meat slaughtered on Eid day. We want it slaughtered. I've even had now with my chickens, a few friends have come to say, can you deliver my 2 chickens dressed? So slaughtered, cleaned, and dressed and ready to deliver. And I wouldn't mind a second for that because that's business for me. So with all of that, people pay in advance. You have people's money. You're thinking 70 cows. That's a lot of money that you would be holding in your hands.
A lot of money.
Exactly. But people do trust. And I think that's the one thing that Ugandans now have to bring back because it was there. It's not like it was, we never had it. We've lost it. And it's something that we need to start bringing back. Be honest. If I'm going to sell you a car and it has an issue, it's good. I just outlay the issue. Shock absorbers, I couldn't replace them in time, so I'm selling to you the vehicle in as is condition. So the person is aware. Instead of beautifying and you go to buy a car and they pour some water in the exhaust pipe and then in a few minutes the water drops. You buy a car thinking it's a new car and it's all rotten. By the time you reach home, you're crying. Yeah. So I think the issue of trust now is absolute. It's really, really essential. And being able to communicate, when things don't happen, be forthright. It will, it may rub a few things not the right way, but you'd rather be on the right than actually, lie and then sit in a lie, swim in a lie. May God, guide us. So yes, I think that was really like the parting thing. So I'm hoping that I can start getting more local customers because I have diaspora customers. But last I found it really funny. Someone telling me, bring me a cow and then I'll pay you upon delivery. I've put in transport. It's Kiriandongo. We are not talking, not Kawempe. and you expect me to just come like that. Yeah, so I think we need to be realistic sometimes in terms of managing our
So lastly,
expectations.
I want to know, and I hope you're open to this, but if you're not open to it, it's still okay. How much pay were you receiving at BBC before you came?
It's a good pay. That's all I can say. It's a good pay. It's not a bad pay. Yeah, but as I'm paid me twice what BBC was paying, so I was happy to leave and come and do that.
Okay.
Yes, it's a decent pay.
Okay.
Off camera, I can tell you.
Okay. All right, guys. That is the agriculture guys. Farmer from Diaspora. If you want to venture into farming, I believe this is good information. Hey, by the way, before you go, before we end this episode, should you start small or start big? When you're coming out, big or small?
If it was possible, starting big, I think, because then you start benefiting from all the economies of scale, which you don't when you're small. If you had a way, it would be good to start start big. Yes, then like you go in with impact. Because if you're going now, for example, you're doing chicken, you start looking for customers and you're going to Serena. You are saying to me, can I do your chickens?
But that's the biggest fear I have. Imagine they'll tell you, Lundo will mew Serena Ugula.
Yes.
And now how do you?
No, but you go there, you just you get the marketing manager. Sometimes size helps. Nobody will just pass eyes in me. There's
a guy at office who told me, Francis Funakolovuto. When I go to Oruchi, Peter Sebo.
Yes,
they won't send me to push the car. So yeah, so appearance also matters.
Yeah, but if it was possible, I mean, it's not possible for everyone, and it shouldn't be a discouragement. There are people who have started small and actually scaled up and managed to do it. The good thing about starting small is you allow yourself to make these mistakes.
Yes.
Mistakes cannot be allowed in a large undertaking. It would be very, very costly. So starting small would be for a person who wants to build up something. But for someone who really wants to get into the market, given the demand, if you want to go in big, create impact, big would be the way.
Definitely.
But I would also recommend this very strongly. Again, it feeds into the trust issue, but it's about working as a group. There is no point in you struggling. You find a person, the person hasn't thought about how they can scale up and, but then is unable to plan to farm on them, to work on them commercially. And why don't you think about the possibility of hooking up with other people and allowing yourself now to scale up? You still maintain the land, go to a lawyer, have an agreement written that is formally, have a contract that you have between you and the people, but then you get the money. Suddenly you mechanize the farm. Quickly, 20 acres of maize, this is a tractor. You don't have any time to waste. You can plant in time, you can weed in time, you can harvest in time. And you can get to the market in time.
Yeah.
Here you get workers, they will strike to the stuadi, and they go. On a tractor, the person will continue working through the rain. So I think we need to start thinking about that. But that's where the trust issue comes in. Looking at the diaspora, this is something that I'm only breaking out to you. I had not mentioned to anyone before this. I sat and I was looking at many people who are crying in the diaspora, unable to go into farming, for example. They're getting all the frustrating stories. You listen to people. I used to run a podcast in the UK. It's called Come Let's Talk with Kasim Kayira. If you go on YouTube, there are lots of episodes of that. And you would hear people coming in and talking about their trials, their tribulations of being in the farming world, how they had lost money and so on. And I just thought, I'm in this farming, I'm making all these improvements. Is there a way that I can help someone in the diaspora? And I thought, I came up with a concept, with an idea called Nundirako. So it's Dream Harvest Farm Nundirako project. This is a project where a person in the diaspora, mainly, not exclusively, but mainly in the diaspora, brings a certain amount of money that we have sort of laid out. We buy them a cow and we keep it on our farm, and that's all they have done. The next thing they do is only pay insurance for the cow. We are paying insurance for cows now through an insurance company, yes.
How much is it?
Premiums. It depends on the value of the cow. They come out, they do an assessment of the cow, they look at the farm, the setup of the security, they look at mitigating factors, and then they will quote a price.
Wow.
So the investor now, all they do is bring this amount of money, we buy them a cow, they can name it because they are all cows. They are heifer cows.
Okay.
We bring them pregnant, and then we start building it up over 6 years. The project runs only up to 6 years. So the person, gets their cow. The first calf that is born on the farm belongs to the farm. So we are doing a sort of a sharing idea, which is first calf that is born because the cow comes pregnant. So in 2 months' time already, we might have a calf on the farm. So you better farm. Then because we are trying to develop our own genetics on the farm, you will learn that nobody ever sells you their best cow. Nobody ever sells you their best cow. Their best cow is the best cow. So someone will give you their second best. It might not be their worst cow, but it will not be their best cow. So if you have that in mind, we've decided that now on the farm, we are going to start developing our own genetics. So we can get Girolando. We just get the semen, the sexed semen of Girolando, artificially inseminate into the cow, and then we start getting the best breeds. So we can get a cow that is not the best, but then we get out of it the very best.
Wow.
So over 6 years now, we're going to do that. And that's something I've done exclusively starting with the diaspora. So it is people in the diaspora, only 10 people, 10 lucky people that have brought in money. We are bringing cows on the farm, and they will be looking after the cows for them for 6 years. So 1 year, and every year, the cow gives us a calf. So 1 year is for you, 1 year is for the farm. 1 year is for you, 1 year is for the farm for 6 years. After 6 years, the parent stock, you will decide whether you want to sell it or not because it will be old for our farm.
Oh, wow.
So it's about trust. It's someone who is away, but then each cow, has its own file. So an investor can come and access their file, the cow's file, every day to check how much milk they are getting, and their money is deposited on their account at the end of the month.
It's a smart one. It becomes like an agricultural version of real estate. But forget his name.
Bakaruba.
Bakaruba is doing.
He's doing right.
Yeah, all right, guys. Woba toize anything mu episode eno nze nkutuma kuwanga to. I've put it in Uganda. I don't know how to put it in English. If you've not learned anything in this episode, you might go to Mutabika. All right.